Early in the morning, loud sounds echoed across the military camp as someone struck a frying pan with a ladle and shouted, "Rise!" The man lying in his bed did not want to open his eyes, though he could clearly hear that his neighbors were already waking up and getting out of bed. One of them cursed loudly, claiming a beetle had crawled into his boot at night and nearly bit his leg. The man sighed and opened his eyes. "It's too noisy here to sleep," he muttered. His name was Enkrid, and he was the commander of a squad of misfits, men exiled for their reckless antics. Though they were dangerous and unruly, they were excellent fighters when Enkrid sent them into battle. Enkrid had no special strength or natural talent. He was here because of endless training, which had helped him become a capable fighter. However, it was here that he met his end. The enemy proved much stronger than him, disarming him and knocking him to the ground. Enkrid struggled to reach his sword but managed to grab it. With determination, he ran back into the thick of battle, using his shield for cover. He noticed an arrow flying toward him and dodged it just in time. The arrow struck his opponent instead. Despite the laughter from those around him, mocking his lack of ability, Enkrid believed that anyone who still held a sword would become a knight. His dream, though worn out from battle, was still alive. But an enemy's sword pierced his throat, and his life, his dream, was over. Enkrid couldn't believe how quickly it had ended, how meaningless it felt. As he fell into a dark abyss, his eyes closed. Then, the sounds of the camp again filled his ears. Someone was shouting, "Rise!" The sun was shining brightly. Was it a dream? He turned to see his neighbor on the right shouting about a bug in his boot. Enkrid sighed deeply, recognizing the situation from his previous death. Is this déjà vu? He wondered. Hours later, he found himself once again on the battlefield, facing the same enemy. This time, however, he died much sooner, with the enemy's sword cutting into his throat. This cycle repeated itself every day for what felt like an eternity. Enkrid relived the same battle over and over, dying each time, experiencing the same pain, the sting of a burning death, the blood pouring from his body. He couldn't escape. On the third day, the cycle persisted. The enemy's sword would pierce him, and again he would fall into darkness. But each time the morning came again, the same loud cries for rise, the same beetle in his boot, the same repeated death. How long would he have to endure this endless cycle? He felt trapped, stuck in the same day, living only to die again. Enkrid had trained with a sword since childhood. A mercenary who passed through his village had taught him how to fight. The mercenary had told him that with such skills, Enkrid could become a knight. Enkrid had believed it, and for years he dreamed of one day being the knight who could change the course of a battle, the hero who would end a war. He had left his village to become that knight, though reality soon proved much harsher. He joined a mercenary group, but they mocked him for his lack of skill. They laughed at the idea of him becoming a knight, telling him that even the simplest tasks were beyond him. Enkrid, though discouraged, was determined. If he had no natural talent, he would work harder, training day and night. He thought that through sheer persistence, he could overcome anything. But when a young village boy, who had been training for only 6 months, easily defeated him in a duel, Enkrid's world came crashing down. He realized all his years of training had been for nothing. The boy, just 12 years old, had bested him with little effort, and Enkrid felt like a failure. But he didn't give up. He trained even harder, pushing himself beyond his limits. Years later, Enkrid became the commander of a small detachment. His squad was made up of outcasts, people like him who had no other place. It wasn't much, but it was a step closer to the regular army, which still seemed leagues above him. One day he turned to his subordinate Jackson, who was whittling a stick with a knife. Enkrid asked Jackson to take his place on the morning shift. Rem, looking displeased, muttered that he would owe him. Enkrid was unfazed. He asked Rem if he could teach him the heart of the beast again, a secret technique that Rem had previously tried to teach him, only for Encrid to give up. Rem looked at him skeptically, reminding Encrid that he had already failed at learning it. The battle between the forces of Nella and Aspen raged once again. Encrid fought as he had before. He dodged the spear aimed at his back, countered his opponent's attacks, and tried to survive. On the 21st day, after dying countless times and reliving the same battles, Encrid finally started to feel like he was improving. During his training, Rem had taught him to never close his eyes at a critical moment. Encrid had struggled with this in the past, but now he faced danger with his eyes wide open. His body had begun to remember how to move, how to fight, how to dodge. And on the 21st attempt, Encrid successfully dodged the fatal strike, avoiding death for the first time in the cycle. The mysterious figure in the boat, who had been observing him from the shadows, asked if he had finally given up, if he was ready to accept defeat. But Encrid refused. He wasn't going to surrender. This day would not be his last. Rem was surprised when Encrid woke up earlier than usual. He couldn't understand how, in such a short time, Encrid had learned the techniques that had taken him years to master. Encrid had learned not through time, but through repeated death, through the pain and despair of each rebirth. One morning, Encrid and Rem practiced together. Rem swung his axe at him, but Encrid was able to dodge it effortlessly. He moved with a fluidity and precision that had not been present just days before. Rem was impressed, but also confused. He had never seen Encrid so skilled so suddenly. "How did you do it?" Rem asked. Encrid shrugged. He had simply kept training, never stopping. It didn't matter that it took endless deaths. He had learned from each one. After their practice, Encrid invited Rem to spar with him. The fight was intense, with Rem attacking fiercely while Encrid dodged and countered. Finally, Encrid struck, delivering a blow with his sword that left Rem barely able to dodge in time. Encrid had imitated the technique used by his killer in past battles. He had learned from his own death. Rem nodded approvingly. "That was impressive," he said, "but you still lack the aggression needed for a decisive blow." Encrid thought for a moment. Rem's advice was clear. To defeat an opponent, he needed to believe that his enemy was already dead before the final strike. And with that, Encrid was ready for the next challenge.